Hello everybody, it is Thursday. I tried to upload the next YouTube video that is supposed to premiere tonight, but when I reviewed it, it actually cut the video short by about a good 7 minutes. So here I am trying to re-render the entire video again. And it's a process. It's bigger than any podcast file because all of the stuff that has to render. But right now it's at 49.7. And right after that, I have to upload that to YouTube. That's another 30 minutes. So it's a good thing that I premiered these things at night. So it gives me time to get all the kinks and promote and share all the stuff up there. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that video on study groups. There are a lot of takeaways from that. So yeah, let's render this project, this video, and get it uploaded to YouTube. So I'm on this creative trip right now. I know this channel is called Medical Coding Geeks, and I want to make sure I encompass enough medical coding content. So here's what I'm going to do. I know in the vlogs I put in a case study that I work with, and so what I'm going to do every month is culminate every one that I do in the vlogs and put it into one video, so that way it's back-to-back coding scenarios. So at least you have that. I came up with the title of these clips. It's called Coding Clips. I'm going to show you the logo I created right now. And I'm going to also play the music that I found, which is on YouTube Studio right about now. So what do you think? Coding Clips by medicalcodinggeek.com. These are some curated case studies that I go through on a daily basis. You've watched them in the recent vlogs. I'm just going to pull those out and put them all together and package them into a sweet video that you can enjoy. So again, Coding Clips by medicalcodinggeek.com, coming soon. So you're in my bathroom. This camera is attached to my sink. I'm about ready to wrap up for today, but just finished with the premiere in regards to my experience in study groups. And first of all, thank you, Blue, for bringing in your audience. I think her channel, she does live now, which is great, and her lives happen before my premieres, on at least on Thursdays, and she carries her audience into my channel, which I totally appreciate. Now, when the video got into the study guide segment, one thing that was brought out was that people who participate in study groups, or even students, they have this mentality that they don't want to be viewed as somebody who doesn't know the answer. And I'm here to tell you, if you don't know the answer, that's okay. That's all right. Because I would rather you, as a student, tell me you don't know how to, you don't know the answer or you don't know how to figure out the problem, I would rather you tell me that than to not tell me anything. Because as an instructor, it is my objective, it is my goal to help you figure out that process. But I would not know what your problem is unless you tell me where you are stuck. So for example, okay, and I used to do this in tutoring. I used to do this when I ran a forum for clinical documentation integrity. I did it as an instructor, okay? When I ask a question and I point to you and I say, hey you, what do you think? Okay, and it's okay to say, I don't know. It's okay to say, I don't know, because it at least tells me that as an instructor, as a mentor, that I need to step in and assist you. Now, most instructors probably would say, well, if you don't know, that's your problem. But for me, as an instructor, I need to step in. Okay. So the way I solve problems is, okay, if you don't know how to solve this problem, tell me what you do know. All right. Tell me up to what point do you understand how to solve or how to address the problem. Once we figure out where you are, like for example, I need to kneel because this camera's not doing it right. Okay, if the goal is here, but you as a student or whatever exam taker only knows up to here, it is my responsibility as an instructor, as a mentor, to get you up to here. Now, I'm not gonna push you up to here. My goal is to tell you the resources, the concepts, to guide you side by side to get you to the goal, right? So like, okay, I'll help you figure out the next step. And then from there, I want you to figure out that next step. But if you don't know how to go to the next step, then that's where I will guide you again. And we will repeat that process until you reach the goal. Now, that goal could be like the answer to the question. Blue said in her experience, there are people who are afraid to answer any questions. They don't want to be viewed as dumb. To me, I think it's okay to portray yourself as somebody who doesn't know the answer. You have to admit, not just to your instructor, but to yourself, that you don't know the answer. And you need to ask for help. Because when you get into the field, let me tell you this, when you get to the field, that mentality won't cut it. Being silent or suffering in silence will not get you anywhere in our field. I just finished editing a podcast with my supervisor. I mentioned that I am interviewing my boss. You need to listen to that podcast episode because the mentality that we're talking about today, that's what I had. I felt like I don't know the answer. I changed that. I changed that mentality. I don't know the answer, but I'm going to ask everybody I know. I'm going to portray to other people, other professionals, other nurses that, hey, I don't know the answer. Can you help me? Don't suffer in silence. Ask for help. All right, everybody, good evening. I don't know if you can see that. Hello, it's Friday. So I showed you something I wrote down. This was a case that I had that I should have talked about as soon as I got it, but now it's kind of like fizzling out of my brain. So I wrote there, it's an APR case, APR-DRG. So if you guys don't know what that is a specific diagnosis related group that has to deal with severity of illness, and risk of mortality. And those two factors drive relative weight. And relative weight is a factor that indicates how much reimbursement is going to be given based upon what that relative weight is, based upon what the SOI and ROM is, and also based upon what the APR-DRG is. Now, that APR-DRG relies heavily on the assignment of the principal diagnosis and also the secondary diagnoses and also the principal diagnosis. But for the sake of this discussion, let's talk about principal diagnosis. So if you're working with principal diagnosis, you're going to be honing in on what the main reason the patient was brought in, worked up, and treated for in the hospital. So the case that I have, and I wrote down, patient presented with syncope. I'm trying to remember this. Patient also complained of epigastric pain. The patient also was diagnosed with COVID-19 10 days prior to arrival. The thing is, the patient left before anything happened. So whenever a patient leaves AMA, there's no specific workup that will reveal what the main reason of coming to the hospital or the main reason of causing all of the events that led to the hospitalization. So 3 things: syncope, epigastric pain, COVID-19. These cases are great because I like when cases are very open-ended, because either one of these can be principal diagnosis. It could be syncope, it could be epigastric pain, it could be COVID-19. Another thing to think about is maybe the epigastric pain was resulted from gastritis from COVID-19. I have seen cases where patients have viral gastroenteritis as a result of COVID-19. Now, the biggest thing that I see is the syncope. Now, whenever I see syncope, and this is my CDI mind thinking, is what caused the syncope. You don't want to have syncope as your principal diagnosis. Reason being is that there's many factors that can go into the syncope. The patient could have had an arrhythmia. The patient could have had vascular issues. What ties all of this in, syncope, epigastric pain, COVID-19, the patient left AMA. Here's what I think. The patient had COVID-19 10 days prior to. Then, at the time of the hospitalization, after the patient was diagnosed, the patient had epigastric pain. And it's probably related to the COVID-19 because it was diagnosed 10 days ago. Usually symptoms will manifest within the 14-day incubation period. So I'm going to guess, again, and anticipate that this could have been a COVID-19 viral gastroenteritis case. And because the patient had viral gastroenteritis, what are the symptoms of gastroenteritis? The patient would have had stomach pain, probably epigastric pain, as explained here, and probably nausea and vomiting. And with that vomiting, it could have been very profuse vomiting. The patient could have been dehydrated as a result of fluid loss and just vomiting. Vomiting can cause some circulation issues. As a result of that, the patient suffered a syncope. That's my guess. But when you think about that, the reason why I do this is because this is the exercise that I do to determine what the principal diagnosis would be. What's interesting is that if, let's say the doctor had said, okay, epigastric pain due to something unrelated to COVID, okay, well, guess what? That gastritis is going to be that principal diagnosis since it's unrelated to COVID-19, all right? And another option would be if the gastroenteritis was related to COVID-19, well, then the COVID-19 will be the principal diagnosis. Here's the kicker. If gastroenteritis unrelated to COVID-19 is principal diagnosis. That gastritis code, I think probably non-infectious, would have been a higher relative weight compared to if COVID-19 was the principal diagnosis. That's something that I would want to consider here, and you want to take a look at. Okay, so relative weight, APRDRG, SOI, ROM, diagnosis related groups. These are things that you have to consider if you're taking your CCS or just working in inpatient. Hey guys, it is Sunday and I am attempting, I spent all this morning trying to figure this out, how to do a screen record on my laptop. So I have my trusty microphone that you hear, the quality is right on point, and I have my trusty webcam, and I have my laptop here, and I have a screen right there. This is again from one of our groups. It is the RHIT and the RHIA exam support group, and I try not to say the names, but I'm going to say the name, not the last name, but her name is Tracy. She finished her RHIA exam. Normally, you have a certain instinctual event that happens when you finish your exam. When I took my CDIP exam, the first thing that I wanted to do was go and eat. I wanted to go out and eat. And it so happened that the day of my test was around my daughter's birthday. So I always remember where I ate on a certain professional event. Okay. So this day I went to Benihana's. But going back to this person here, Tracy, her instinctual event was to take all of her study material and throw it down the trash. I kind of have mixed feelings on this. I get why she did it because it's a sense of relief. As you see through the video, I'm going to do a bit of play-by-play here. The thing is that I want to do play-by-play because I'm looking at what she's throwing in the garbage, and I'm like, what is she throwing it away? And is there certain, like, something that I can read here? I'm going to do my best because my vision is so bad. Anyway, let's play it. Okay, so she's throwing like handwritten notes. Now it's progressing into 3x5 cards, which I highly suggest. If you have notes, create 3x5 cards, only because they're portable. So I'm assuming she created these. Throwing more. There's one thing that I saw here. There it is. What is? Let's pause there for a second. Scopa. What is that? I'm trying to read what that is. Because the last time when I took my exam, it was back in 2004. So I get a lot of communications between people who graduated a certain date but waited so much longer to take their exam. So imagine if I graduated in 2004 and not take the exam until now. I still have colleagues that have done that, but yet they work in the field. But if they took the test now, I mean, I'm looking at this Scopa. If you guys can read that, I don't know what that is. How does that relate to HIM? Anyways, let's continue. So she's throwing more notes. And then more notes. Then it progresses into these notes, these printed notes. What I did notice is that it's more like an index of definitions. So she had it from A through Z. And so I'm looking through, unfortunately I cannot see because the way the framing is set up, but she's just throwing it and then there you go. So I'm going to pause it right here. Maybe it's just for show, but she threw away her study guide, her prep book. I get it. But what what I was reacting to more, it would have been worse if she had thrown her textbooks away. This is a study prep. I'm not too worried about that. But she threw away her. If she had thrown away her materials, her texts from her college, then that's something I would not have done. Now let me step away here. Let me go back here. I mentioned this in Marlene Moreno's podcast, but I still have my textbook. This is so dated. This is back in 2001. This is the book that I got back in 2001. And as you note, it's still in good condition. But I'm never throwing this away. Because one day, I understand the notes, I understand the cards, I understand the study guide, throw it away. But your textbooks, don't throw it away. Because you may find yourself in a situation one day where you need that. And I had an interview with my previous boss, Sabita Ramnarace. And you will find yourself in a situation where you don't know what you're doing in your own position. For me, it was when I became an HIM director as soon as I got my credential. And it's tough to get your footing when you haven't had that experience yet. So for me, I locked myself in my office. I grabbed this textbook. And it was a lifesaver for me because it gave me the footing. Now, I passed the exam, but I did not know how to apply it. That's the problem with this. But kudos to Tracy as we continue here. I mean, she passed her exam. Congratulations. Congratulations to those who passed their exam. Throw away your notes. But I when I first saw it, again, I thought it was our textbook, but it's just a study guide. Study guide, study notes, they're all reproducible. So you could do all of that. But your textbooks, your resources, AHIMA, AAPC, anything that you have that can give you the footing, the ground to walk on, to run with, that you could work in your own profession. Please do keep.
medicalcodinggeek.com